We've got a good meeting lined up for you today. Before we go any further, I just would like to ask Jenny to let us know of any apologies for today's meeting.
Thank you, Phil. Two apologies from trustees, Richard Gantlett and Melanie Henry.
Thank you very much. Okay. So you'll see the agenda coming up very shortly. So just to say that we have the usual kind of important and necessary business for an annual general meeting. But along the way, we will celebrate our achievements, talk a bit about the role of trustees and recruiting trustees, and we will address a number of questions from members as well. So we hope to get through quite a lot today. With that, then let's move on to the agenda and item 2, which is the adoption of the minutes of last year's AGM. This was proposed by Dagmar Jungans and seconded by Tim Gilson that we adopt these minutes. Members cast their votes. There were 139 for, 1 against and 11 abstentions. So we can adopt the minutes from last year. And if anybody is interested in seeing the recordings of previous AGMs, they are available on YouTube for the last few years worth anyway. So if you'd like to see anything from last year's or the year before, please do go and look there. So thank you. That was the minutes. Matters arising, there were no matters arising that don't occur on this year's agenda anyway. So I think we can move straight to item 4, which is to adopt the annual impact report and accounts. You will have received in the mail or on your online report, you've got the annual impact report. It has the accounts in it as well. We're just going to run through some of the things from the annual report. First of all, there's a year in numbers, which I always think is really interesting. It can't tell us the whole story, but it just gives us a sense of the scale of activity that the trust gets through in a year, and you can see it's a lot, and that's all made possible by our supporters, at least 23,000, including members, volunteers and donors, all of whom make such a fantastic difference by giving time or money to help us deliver everything that you see in this annual impact report. So just for a sense of scale there, it gives you an idea. So I'm going to move on, and we're just going to show you a short video now, which is not very long.
So in our strategy to 2030, we've set ourselves 2 big goals: securing nature's recovery in Wiltshire and Swindon and connecting people with nature. And we're thinking big for nature's recovery, restoring our precious chalk streams at scale, connecting our beautiful reserves with wider landscape scale collaborations with key partners across Wiltshire and Swindon.
We're confident it's the right path forward. It's ambitious, it's targeted, and it directly addresses the urgent challenges we face for our climate, biodiversity, health and well-being. The projects shown in this film make such a big difference for nature and people, and they're only possible with your support.
So we've recently collaborated with the Cambridge Conservation Initiative, which is itself a collaboration between Cambridge University and the RSPB, along with several other key members, to host an exciting new scientific project. It's a project led by Ed Turner of Cambridge University, and Within it, it's all about creating more spaces for butterflies in one of their best habitats, which is the chalk downland of Coombe Bissett.
Really thinking about ways that people can manage environments to make them more friendly for a whole variety of different species. We're trying to increase biodiversity. And we think things like these butterfly banks, which are an experimental manipulation, they're a large-scale experiment in a landscape like this, beautiful chalk grassland site. Well, this can be a really exciting place for conservation, and that's because it does all kinds of different things.
For us, working in partnership is absolutely critical. We know that our individual sites are not big enough. We have to work with other people at a landscape scale to achieve the ambitions that we have for the species and for the habitats. And for us in this landscape, that means working with the Wildlife Trust and the National Trust, but it also means working with the Pewsey Downs Farmers Group, and they are absolutely critical to our success, because we have 3 individual protected sites and they have all the sites in between. And so their involvement and their great enthusiasm for this project has been absolutely critical to the successes that we've had so far.
At Wiltshire Wildlife Trust, partnerships is at the heart of what we do, and we're really proud to be working with the Wiley Valley Farmers Group and Wessex Rivers Trust together to restore 18 kilometres of chalk stream. But this is much more than just restoring a river. This is about supporting local farmers, landowners and local communities to create this resilient landscape.
We're both multi-generational custodians of this land. We're always striving to do the best for the environment and the local community and for the people we sell our produce to. Having the involvement of the Wiltshire Wildlife Trust and the Wessex Rivers Trust would be in the Landscape Recovery Project, together with the 40 farmers in the Wiley Valley Farmers Group. It means we've got the great science backing, we've got real strength in numbers, and we've got the ability to put together a really exciting scheme for the Wiley, where we can bring all those threads of knowledge together into one amazing project.
And obviously it means there's larger developments of like collaboration, because Josh is this side of me, so we've got to make sure that our sort of everything sort of links up in a way that sort of ensures the project can happen. So there's the sort of ecological benefits that we can get from opening up habitats, and also sort of just things like flooding resilience and that kind of stuff.
I'm incredibly proud of the chance to expand the reserve. It gives us a lot more flexibility to manage it in a way suitable for a lot of different species at once, not just concentrating on turtle doves, but the chalk grass and plants like the dwarf sedge, the early gentian, a whole plethora of orchids that come out throughout the year. And then all their associated insects, the birds. It's really an opportunity to make a difference all the way up and down the food chain by creating these transitional habitats from woodland to gorse to chalk grassland and chalk heath. All of these rare and unique in their own right, but coming together in a wonderful harmony.
And sites like this are really important because we know there's a good number of pairs here. So it's about understanding why are they coming here and what makes this site good for them, and can we replicate some of those factors elsewhere in other areas where maybe the birds aren't present or where they're really struggling to breed. So yeah, it's really important to understand what's going on at sites like this that are the kind of lapwing hotspots.
Like all things, wildlife is not just about the habitat, they have to be managed. So we've very soon learnt that the way to get success with lapwings is to have enough of them.
We're here at Great Chalfield, which is the location for our exciting partnership with the National Trust, where Wiltshire Wildlife Trust has taken on the management of the land here at Great Chalfield, and we're developing a learning hub for nature, regenerative farming and green finance. It's been a busy first year at Great Chalfield. We've planted 12,000 trees and we've been setting our ecological baseline so that we'll understand the impact that we have here at Great Chalfield with the help of the latest tech like acoustic bird monitoring technology, which is an elaboration of Merlin you might have on your phone, and also with the help of an army of volunteers, including Wiltshire Mammal Group and Wiltshire Botanical Society. Connecting young people with nature is a big focus for us. We're determined that every child has that magic moment with nature and also has a place where they can go, where they can take respite in nature away from all that social media frenzy.
Our amazing volunteers gave 14,000 hours of time last year.
I moved to the area about 5 years ago, and I'd done some volunteering with Avon Wildlife Trust before. So I knew that when I came over to this area, I'd like to get involved in some way.
There are so many environmental concerns. You know, one feels rather powerless in what one can do about it. Being able to come out and do something active for wildlife and for the environment, I find really valuable.
We work a lot with volunteers, and again here at the Tree Nursery I keep saying we. What I mean is they, the volunteers, have done all of this. We couldn't do anything without them.
So this year we've added work experience weeks and rangers groups for young teenagers as a follow-on to our ever-growing number of wildlife watch groups for families, which are run by our amazing volunteers.
This is a real opportunity for families to get a sense for the first time, in many cases, of what we do and how it's important to get involved.
It's really lovely to see that the community are coming together. It's nice to see that the work that Wiltshire Wildlife Trust do with young people as well, especially with children with complex health needs.
So the Willows Care Farm is an alternative provision. We specialise in nature-based and therapeutic activities. Each of our young people that comes has a dedicated one-to-one that they build positive relationships with. We really get to know them, understand their needs, help them progress. And we had one student that was really struggling to come into the care farm, and he couldn't come into the care farm without a parent being present for about 30 minutes. And the one-to-one continued to work with him, and that built up to an hour. Into an hour without the parent. The parent would sit in the car park and wait, and he was able to do a whole hour successfully. That then built to a whole session where the parent didn't even have to stay and wait, and that student was then able to make a friend, and you could often see them playing board games together in the polytunnel. So to be able to go from not accessing it to fully engaging and just loving being here is such a positive and wonderful thing to see.
This film is just a tiny snapshot of all the incredible work that our amazing staff and volunteers are doing right across Wiltshire and Swindon.
We are endlessly grateful to all our members and supporters. Thank you.
Next slide, please. So thank you. I hope that the impact report and that short video just gives you a sense of how much the Trust achieves just in 1 year and what a big difference it makes. And I'd just like to spend a few moments celebrating the difference we actually make for nature and people together, pull out a few of those highlights again. So connecting people with nature is central to our work, and a lot of people imagine that we only have nature reserves. It's really important to understand that we work with people as well. We engage with people of all ages to inspire a lifelong love of nature, to provide alternative therapeutic education for vulnerable children, to support adult health and well-being, to empower people to take action. And we saw all of those things in the video. Here you see a few testimonials, which just give you a sense of how important this provision is and what a big difference it makes to people's lives when they connect with nature. And we do work in partnership to achieve all this. We have partnerships with health services, local authorities, charities, the armed forces. Lots of these organisations refer people to our programs, and that's how we're able to make such a big difference working with these partners. It's also worth noting that Wiltshire Wildlife Trust is something of a national leader amongst all of the UK trusts. We've been doing this for some years now, and other trusts are beginning to realise the benefits and to come to us to learn about what we do and to plan their own provision. So it's good that we have those years of experience already to build not just in Wiltshire now, but to go across wider into the UK. So next slide, please. Nature on our doorstep, taking local action. We engage with people all over Wiltshire, local communities where people live, and in all of our towns and cities. You saw some examples in the video of Swindon Forest Meadows programme, for example, more than 2,500 volunteer hours in the year 2024-25. We saw them in the tree nursery, growing trees from locally collected seed, and then planting trees and meadow wildflowers in public, private and community spaces across Swindon. And that's just one town, one example. This local activity is happening all over Wiltshire, which is fantastic. Next slide, please. We've heard a lot over the last few years of impact reports about the challenge of ash dieback, and what a big issue it's been for us, a difficult issue. We've seen scenes like this across our nature reserves, where we've had to carefully assess and manage the risks, think about public safety, think about the issues of dying and falling trees. This has been affecting many of our reserves. And at first it seemed like a total disaster and a real difficult challenge. But by thinking carefully about how we manage this, planting new native trees, opening up glades for wildflowers and butterflies, restoring and creating ponds in woodlands, we're actually beginning to see already from the surveys we're doing, at least no loss of biodiversity, and in many cases, an increase in species richness, with more plants, butterflies, birds and bats beginning to appear. So although ash dieback has been a really difficult issue for us over a number of years now, it's really great to see that we can turn disaster into an opportunity and make it a positive for wildlife in Wiltshire. And so finally from me on this subject, just to give a sense of the scales we're working at. So we don't just work at field and farm scale now, we're also thinking about landscape scale, much bigger areas where we can connect bigger, better, more connected patches of habitat land, nature reserves, managed for nature, and to create a much bigger area where natural processes can be restored for clean air, soil and water, for natural flood management, for carbon reduction, for climate resilience, to allow species to move through landscapes as climate changes and other land use changes happen, and to create greater resilience. And this can only happen by working in partnership with lots of other people. So it's important that we work at field scale and at species level. It's important we work at farm scale and restore habitats. It's important we work at whole landscape scales and restore natural processes, working in big partnerships with lots of other landowners who share our ambitions. And so increasingly, as you see what the Trust is doing these days, you'll see us working across all these scales. And that's why, for example, Great Chalfield is such an important thing, working at farm scale, as well as the big partnerships working at landscape scale. So we celebrate that too, because it's making more of a difference. If we're ever to achieve some of these big ambitions, for example, 30 by 30, having 30% of land managed for nature by 2030, we can only do that by working at big scales with other partners. Thank you. So before I go to the accounts, let's go to the accounts now. So our Director of Finance and Operations, Jenny Davis, is just going to give us some of the financial highlights so that we understand the key points coming out of this year's accounts. Thank you, Jenny.
Thanks, Phil. Hello, everyone. Good evening. We're pleased to present to you this evening and in the impact report, which you'll have received, figures for the financial year ending 31st of March 2025, which already seems in some ways quite a long time ago. But so year ending 31st of March 2025. Our external auditors found that our accounts are a fair reflection of our financial status and that the Trust continues to be financially healthy and a going concern. Our full accounts will be available in due course on the Charity Commission's website if members want to look in more detail. Next slide, please. So this slide shows you our income and expenditure accounts, and members will see that our figures are broadly in line with recent trends, particularly when you allow for large project funding, which is in general received in one lump and then spent across several years. Income received in this financial year was 6.2 million and total expenditure just under 6 million. And we have split our expenditure there so that members can see how we're spending our funds towards meeting our strategic goals. So you will see in the middle there, people are taking action and nature is in recovery, our two strategic goals. And that shows you how we're spending our money, particularly in that direction. Next slide, please. Our balance sheet is showing a total assets of £18.5 million, with over £10 million of heritage assets, and that's how our nature reserves are classified on the balance sheet. So as we move through the next financial year on from these accounts into the year we're in at the present, we are of course mindful of changes in the external environment and government policies. Particularly members will know about the rise in national insurance as a well-known example. So it is pleasing, therefore, to see our unrestricted funds, which are at the bottom of the balance sheet, slightly increasing. And members will also note that our cash balances have increased by almost £500,000, strengthening our liquidity. Both of these factors are really important to us, to our resilience as a charity. Members might also like to know, as part of that resilience piece, that trustees set our financial reserves target at 3 months of operating costs, and we presently far more than exceed this. And the last slide, please. With thanks to our members, donors and partners, our significant purchases in the year 24-25 included a long lease on the Great Chalfield estate and also Manor Farm Poor Patch, which extended an existing reserve. So you will have seen more details about these and of course highlights of all of our impactful work from our projects and our teams in the video which Phil showed earlier. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you very much, Jenny. And just one more thought about the finances. Looking forward, I think it's important to understand how trustees are thinking about our future. And what we really want to do is secure sustainable investment for growth and to deliver impact, to deliver our objectives. So what trustees are looking to do with planning and overseeing the finances going forward is to make sure that we're stable and we operate as a healthy and going concern, that we can raise sufficient funds, including unrestricted funds as well as project grant income, to invest in delivering our strategic goals, that is nature recovery and connecting people with nature. And at the same time that we can strengthen our capacity, because all of this delivery needs investment in our people, our working estate, our equipment and our technology, so that we have sufficient capacity to deliver out there on the ground. So these are the areas we're looking at, and this is the way trustees are thinking about making sure our finances are healthy going forward. So thank you. Next slide, please. So apologies. So we're just before we go to the appointment of auditors, just to go back to the annual report. So to formally adopt the annual report and accounts for 2024-25, the adoption was proposed by Fiona Goff and seconded by Julian Crawford, and members voted 147 votes for adopting the accounts, none against, and 4 abstentions. So we can formally adopt the annual report and accounts. Thank you very much to all of our members. So, appointment of auditors. This is important. External auditors who make sure that our accounts are healthy and fair and accurate. There is a proposal proposed by Piers Maynard and seconded by Julian Crawford to appoint SUMA auditors. We've had a question from members, so let's just turn to that for a moment about how long we've been using SUMA as auditors and what other value they add besides the statutory audit at the end of each year. I'm going to ask Jenny again to just give us a little insight into that question, please, Jenny.
Thank you. I can clarify that the trustees have appointed SUMA Audit, previously known as Monaghan's, a firm of chartered accountants and business advisors. They've been our auditors for a number of years. Most recently, the lead auditor has been James Gare. He's a partner at SUMA. James is a specialist in auditing charities, and he has got a deep understanding of the Wiltshire Wildlife Trust financial systems and, of course, the relevant statutory accounting practices and standards. So we are transitioning to a new finance system in 2026, and our auditors will be ensuring that the new system is optimised to our accounting and reporting needs.
So thank you, Jenny. That's very helpful clarification. And so with that, members did vote, 141 for, 0 against, and 10 abstentions. So we can formally appoint SUMA Audit as our external auditors for the coming year. So thank you very much to everyone for that. So if we can move to item 6, re-election of trustees. So I'm going to take some time to talk a little bit about trustees, the role they do, and our current recruitment drive for trustees. So first of all, 2 trustees were proposed to be re-elected after their first 3-year term. They are allowed to serve for a second 3-year term. So Fiona Goff was proposed by me and seconded by Mel Henry. Members voted 146 for, 2 against, and 5 abstentions. So thank you to members. Fiona is duly re-elected. And Tim Gilson, who was proposed by Sylvia Wyatt and seconded by me. Members voted 147 for, 2 against, and 4 abstentions. So Tim is duly re-elected for a second term. So thank you to members for that. I'd also like, while we're here, to thank 2 outgoing trustees who've served for 6 years for all their wisdom and support. Charles Fattorini, who, as well as being a very reliable trustee, he's put so much into the trust. He led a major review of our nature reserves a few years back, and he's provided invaluable strategic advice on things like ash dieback, conservation, grazing, and our farm operations. So thank you very much to Charles for your 6 years. And also big thank you to Julian Barlow, who has expertise in marketing and brand management and has provided a lot of advice in that area, and has also taken a lot of time to help us recruit executive directors to our senior leadership team. So both Julian and Charles, thank you hugely for everything you've done over the last 6 years. With their departure, we will now be down to 9 trustees at the moment. That's the minimum allowed by our Articles of Association, which say we should have between 9 and 15 trustees. So we are looking to recruit some more so that by the 2026 AGM, we will be able to propose to you some new trustees for election. We've got a live recruitment advert out now, which you can find on the website, the Trust website. If you go to trustees, about us and trustees, you'll find it there. We've got a slide now to just give you a brief sense of what trustees actually do. And you can see there's kind of 6 petals on this slide, which give you a brief idea of the main issues. But essentially, it's about making sure the charity is delivering its objectives for the public, working for its beneficiaries, that we're following our rules, our own rules, as well as the law. There's plenty of charity law and other law which we have to comply with, that we're making decisions for the benefit of our objectives, that we're acting with the care and attention we should be, and we seek external expertise and advice when we need it, that we're managing our resources well, that's people, money, and property, and that those are being properly managed and looked after, and that all our actions are clear and that people understand what we're doing. And essentially that kind of governance is largely done by committee. We're not involved in the day-to-day running of the organisation. That's for the executive, for our professional employees. But we have oversight, support and challenge as a role. And some trustees, if they have time, also help us with some external representation and promotion of the trust. And all of this takes us a minimum of 12 days a year. So trustees have to be able to give some time, their own time, and have the support of their employer if they're employed, and they're giving time in the daytime sometimes. So for all of us, we find this a vital and hugely rewarding role. We feel we're making an important contribution, and trustees invariably get so much out of it when they can see and be connected with the work that the trust does, and you've seen that in the impact report and the video. So being a trustee is a hugely rewarding role. Now, we had a question last year at last year's AGM about diversity, and this is an important consideration for us when we're recruiting. Our charitable purpose is for all the people of Wiltshire and Swindon. Our work engages with a wide range of communities and demographies across the county. And so we would ideally like to have a trustee board that reflects all of Wiltshire's communities. And when we're thinking about diversity, we need to recognise there are different angles, different aspects of diversity. There's the Equality Act of 2010, which defines 9 legally protected characteristics, things like age, disability, religion, and so on. So we think about that. We need to consider the kind of diversity of different life experiences and perspectives of people across Wiltshire. And we need to consider diversity of professional expertise relevant to governing all aspects of a charity and its business. So that we're trying to cover in a group of 9 to 15 trustees all of those kinds of diversity, which is actually quite a challenge. And you can see it's quite hard to tick all those boxes all of the time in a small group of people. But we are guided by an equality, diversity and inclusion framework developed by the Wildlife Trusts. That's the UK Federation of all county wildlife trusts. And we are hoping to attract people from many different perspectives. So please do, while this recruitment is live, it's live until the end of December at the moment, please help us reach out, find and attract people who can complement and diversify the strengths that our existing trustee team already brings. So in a sense, I'm asking for your help to help us reach out so that we can truly reflect all of the people of Wiltshire to the extent that that's possible. So that's just a little bit of a plea from me to help us with recruiting the next the next cohort of trustees. So thank you for that. And if we can move to the next agenda item then. So I'm pleased to say we do have a number of helpful questions from members that were submitted ahead of the meeting. And we'd like to address those. We'd like to address all the questions we received. So first of all, there were two questions around BNG and Entrade. We will explain in a moment what those are. But first of all, there was one member who noted that we have around £86,000 worth of BNG credits and asked about what we plan to do. Do we plan to sell them? What's going on there? And a related question about our relationship with Entrade, how we interact with them. Is there any profit from that? How we take a percentage of the value or the share in that, and how that works with the Wiltshire nature market. So we've got two questions which are in broadly a similar area, and I'm going to ask our Chief Executive Joe Lewis and our Director of Nature Recovery Carrie Starbuck to respond to those questions, please.
Thank you, Phil. Hello, I'm Joe Lewis. Good evening, everyone. So just to explain the context here, so Wiltshire Wildlife Trust was a project partner with Entrade in the development of the Bristol Avon catchment market. And that was with funding from the Green Recovery Challenge Fund. And our purpose was to support the emergence of a mechanism that would make it possible for farmers at all scales to access green finance markets. It can be challenging because of the levels of risk involved and because you have to be able to supply quite large biodiversity projects. So we wanted to get involved in the Entrade catchment markets, which work to reduce the risk and also to aggregate, to join up fractions of biodiversity net gain units, small projects, small parcels of land to help meet high volume demand. So that was our purpose in getting involved, to make sure that we could support farmers at all scales to access green finance. And since the funding from DEFRA and the Heritage Lottery Fund for the pilot ended, Wiltshire Wildlife Trust has been contracted by Entrade to support farmers in the catchment to develop those nature-based projects, that pipeline of BNG, biodiversity net gain projects, and we receive a fixed fee for the projects that were developed. And it's worth clarifying because the question asked about what percentage share Entrade takes, but actually the governance of the Bristol Avon catchment market is overseen by an independent environmental markets board, and Entrade receives a fixed fee as a market operator, not a percentage of the trade value. And this is part of a mechanism that was designed by the University of Exeter to be high integrity and transparent. Any surplus is distributed transparently between the farmer suppliers and the biodiversity net gain buyers. So just to clarify, the question was asked about in our balance sheet assets, the £86,000 worth of BNG credits that we hold. So those are rights to biodiversity units we hold, which came about through the Green Recovery Challenge Fund pilot to help secure projects on the ground. And these are intended ultimately for resale via the Bristol Avon catchment market, but we're not currently proposing to sell these until demand for BNG stabilises and grows, because we don't want to compete with the supply of BNG projects that we've supported farmers to develop through our NERF project, and NERF being the Natural Environment Investment Readiness Fund from DEFRA. Carrie, our Director of Nature Recovery, is just going to say a word about that funding in response to the question that was raised.
Lovely, thanks Joe. Hello, good evening everyone. I'm Carrie Starbuck, the Director of Nature Recovery, and NERF is a fantastic project that we're in partnership with Simon Smart of Smart Land Management and Ecology. And the aim of this project is to help farmers at all scales become investment ready, and for a range of routes to market, Entrade being one of them. and it's funding for our ecology team and Simon Smart to work with 15 farmers across the county to get them investment ready. So this includes things like baseline surveys, HMMPs, which is short for Habitat Management and Monitoring Plan. So many acronyms when it comes to these things, as well as running webinars and workshops and creating resources and tools for other farmers to access and break down barriers to this emerging nature markets. That's it. That's the project in a nutshell. So that's all from me. Shall I hand it back to you, Jo? Is there anything else you want to say?
I think we're back to Phil.
Brilliant.
Okay, so thank you both. Those were great questions, and it gave us a chance to help explain how we're working in those nature markets and what that means for us. So thank you for that. We then had a couple of questions about AGMs. So last year, I think we had a question about in-person AGMs, and this year we've had two questions, essentially people encouraging us to go back to in-person interactive AGMs, which of course we all really want to do. So just to recap a little bit, of course, all organisations have been through a bit of a journey with the COVID pandemic, where we were forced to go from in-person meetings to online meetings. And in doing that, we learned quite a lot, actually. It turns out that most organisations get more participation in their AGMs and those kinds of meetings online than they did in person, which is a really interesting thing to learn, because obviously we want to encourage as many people to participate as possible. So the factors that trustees have been thinking about is inclusivity, access and participation. Not everybody can travel around Wiltshire to attend a meeting in person, so we're thinking about that. We've been thinking about logistics, technology and cost, and to hold a hybrid in-person and online at the same time meetings is quite a tricky thing to do. However, we have been investing in our back office technology, so we're pleased to be able to say that we can go back next year. We plan to go back to in-person and online, so hybrid meetings, so that we can try to get the best of all worlds and encourage as much participation and interaction as we can. So thank you for those questions, and we're happy to say that yes, we'd like to move back to those kind of meetings. So that's good. And then I think this is the last question. We had a question, a nature question, about, in particular, the large populations of Canada geese at Langford Lakes and the ecological impacts that they have. And I'm going to ask Jo again to respond to this question, please.
Yes, of course. So it's probably worth clarifying for those who aren't familiar with the ecological challenge of Canada geese. They're beautiful birds. Why are they a challenge for us? Well, they were actually introduced as a decorative and a game bird on country estates in the 17th century. Their populations have since exploded. So they're non-native, they're considered invasive. Changing agricultural practices and growth of ponds in urban centres have provided new habitat. And the reason they're a problem, they have a negative ecological impact for three reasons. Number one, they're quite aggressive. They really drive away native waterfowl. So some of the priority species we're really looking to support at Langford are challenged by the Canada geese. They also overgraze the shoots and the rhizomes of aquatic plants. It's been quite challenging to re-establish reed beds at Langford for that reason. And their droppings do make a big challenge for us around water quality. So, and they're considered to be a farm pest, Canada geese, as well, due to heavy grazing of vegetation. And for us at Langford Lakes, the huge influx happens during the molt season, which is late June, July. We actually observed this year relatively low numbers during the breeding season, but quite high numbers on adjacent estates. So this is an issue on which we're going to need to collaborate with our neighbours, which we're doing, to try and encourage a joined up approach to improve our chances of success in reducing the Canada geese. And the primary method for that is egg pricking. So That will be done again next spring, because the adult Canada geese, they lack predators. It is something that a role that we need to play in terms of human control, and we will supplement that as we need to with live bird control to reduce and disperse the numbers significantly enough to improve breeding success for the species that we really need to be supporting at Langford.
Thank you, Joe. So that was another good question, and thank you for that illuminating answer. So I think we may have one more slide. I think we've reached the end of the questions. And so, yeah, another slide coming. Yeah. Okay, so there was no other business submitted in advance, so I don't think we have any other issues to raise. So I think with that, we are reaching the end of this annual general meeting. So I'd like to say a huge thank you to all our members who have voted, have sent in questions and contributed and participated in this AGM. And once again, a huge thank you to all of our supporters, our members, our donors, our volunteers, everybody who helps us make such a huge difference for nature and people in Wiltshire. Thank you so much, and look forward to seeing you again in the future. Thank you.